Good job today. Hello, everyone. My name is Jane Minder, and I'm a trainer from the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. Today's training is email, how to write and manage it in the workplace. We have a couple of goals for today's training. The first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about ways to write effective email messages. Basically, when you're writing email, you're trying to communicate something. So we want to be effective in the way that we're writing our email messages. Our second goal is just to look at Outlook and consider ways that you can better manage your email, both your incoming and outgoing email. I will tell you, for purposes of this training, I will be working in Outlook 2010. If you are in a different version, most of what I'm going to be talking about is available in earlier versions of it. So don't worry about that. If things look a little bit different, there will be comparable things in your version of Outlook. So first, let's talk about writing effective email messages. Before you begin to write, I want you to take some considerations. And this is just take a moment before you write an email to consider some of these things. First of all, what are you trying to communicate? Are you just passing on information? Are you answering or asking a question? Are you responding to something, or are you asking for a response? What is it that you're trying to communicate? This is actually one that I think is one of the most important ones, and that is, who are you communicating with? I always like to say, I talk to a peer differently than I may talk to my boss, and I certainly talk to a peer differently than I would talk to a customer. So just consider who you're communicating with before you begin to write. What do you want to have happen? What action do you want to have happen? Do you need a response? Are you asking for a response? Are you expecting somebody to take action? Or maybe you don't need anything at all to happen, you're just passing on information. And lastly, consider if email is really the correct choice. In this case, often we'll use email to try to avoid maybe the hard conversations. Maybe you're a supervisor and you need to coach somebody or reprimand somebody. Email may not be the correct choice for something like that. Face-to-face is something, and phone actually is sometimes more convenient than email, so you might want to consider whether email is the correct choice to begin with. So when you write an email, what are your goals? Well, first of all, I would imagine you want to have it be read. It's important. You're putting your time into it. You're trying to pass on this information or trying to communicate with someone, and you want them to open it up and read it. You also want it to be understood. Once they've read it, you want to make sure that you're getting your point across. And then you want the appropriate response. So how are you going to do those things? Well, the one way that everybody talks about how to get your email read is with the subject line. The subject line is really the most important. It's like the headline of an article in the newspaper. Imagine a newspaper without headlines, just a bunch of articles there. How are they going to catch your attention and make you want to read them? So you really need to be using your subject line. You also need to make it meaningful and understandable. And this is one of those places where it comes in, who is your audience here? Is it meaningful to maybe what you would say to a peer, but maybe it may not be meaningful to a customer? So make your subject line meaningful and understandable. And be specific. Don't be vague. Just be specific. Don't worry about putting even more information than you might think of to put into the subject line. I'm going to show you an inbox, and I want you to think about which one of these you think I'll actually look at first. Well, this one's not likely. This doesn't have any subject line at all. And if you're like me, I get probably tens of emails. I don't know. I don't want to say 100 emails a day, but I get a lot of emails every day. So I'm selective in what I open. And if I don't have a subject line to pique my interest, it's not likely that I'm going to open that one first. Then you have something like this, stuff. Okay, what stuff? That doesn't tell me anything about what this email is about. This one I really like. This person did not consider the audience that they were sending this to. They were sending this to me, and I'm a reference librarian. All I do is get questions all day long. So by putting just question, that's not telling me anything about what's in this email, or does it make me want to necessarily open it first. And then I love these. They put important or honest or trust me or something. And of course, the first thing you do is you don't trust it, because it's not enough information. If it's important, put it in the subject line. So let's look at some others. Something like this, spelling and grammar create an impression. Well, apparently that's something I know about, so I know whether I want to spend my time opening that and reading it. This one's very simple. This person is telling me about a publication. The publication's name was Weekly Window. So she put the information in there that I needed to know when and if I was going to open that. This one actually sounds kind of important. I failed to notice the UMI password hadn't changed. Sorry. She's almost put the whole email or the whole email message in the subject line. And then this one is just a simple notification, and because it's coming from a person, this happens to be an HR person, I know what this is about. So I understand, and it's specific enough for me. So let's look at some subjects and some actual emails. Here's a subject line that just says meeting. This is from Dwight to Tom, and he's asking about a meeting that's scheduled for next week, but if Tom were just looking at that subject, what would the problem be? Well, the problem probably is that Tom has 7 meetings between now and next week, and he doesn't know which one Dwight is talking about just by the subject line. If he were to change the subject line to something like this, you would get Tom's attention. Okay, it gives more information. It's very specific, and Tom may not even need to open the email. He's got his reminder in the subject line. But again, Dwight has put a little bit more information in this email, including his contact information if necessary. So be specific with your subject lines. Okay, how to make your email be understood. There's actually quite a few things here you can do about being understood. The first one is to be concise, and this is actually the nature of email. Email's not meant to be like giving a report in school and writing everything down or writing a long letter to a friend. It's meant to be concise. It's best if you make your most important point first, because you want people to read your email, but you need to realize that people are busy. They may not read all of your email. Put that most important point first. That's another way to make sure that your email gets read completely, by putting the most important point first. So here's an example, and this is just a funny little example I've come up with. Hi Nancy, I'm hungry. How about you? It's almost 12 noon. If you're hungry and I'm hungry, maybe we should do something about it. Want to go to lunch now? Well, that's a long email, and it didn't really get very close to the point, which is you want to go to lunch now. You don't need all that other stuff. You just want to make your point really fast. And in this case, in this instance, I would also even just consider calling her on the phone and not worrying about email at all. But if you're going to do email, make sure you make your most important point first. Attach documents for reference. This is actually something that I've learned, and I'm going to tell on myself by showing you the next example. But this is an idea of making part of your email an attachment that they can use at a later date. And let me show you this email that I actually wrote. Yes, I actually wrote this email. I actually thought that Mr. Smith would read this email. And I don't know about you, but I would have a hard time probably getting all the way through this. The thing about this is what I'm telling him is telling him about a database that we provide that I thought he would be interested in. The entire middle of this is actually step-by-step instructions for how to search in that database. And obviously I'm trying to help him be able to do that. But if he's not going to read this whole email, he's never going to get to my directions. So one thing that I can do is just to take this and create some kind of document with this information in it, and then come here and redo this email and tell him that I've attached the instructions for searching that particular database. And here's the attachment up here. Now this does two things. It makes this email easier to read because there's not so much there. It's not so daunting when you first look at it. And it gives him the opportunity to file away this particular attachment if he wants it in a different place so that he can refer to it later. So that's a reason for possibly putting some extensive information you're going to have in your email in some sort of attachment. And you have to remember that this is business writing. You are representing your agency when you're writing, particularly when you're writing to customers. And grammar and spelling do count. And again, I've got another sort of out there kind of example, but I don't know about you, but it may not be too far off. Let me try to read this. What sort of impression are you going to have of me when I sent you a email massage like this? I can't even read it's so hard to read, I can't even continue to read. Except for the last line that says, next time I send you something, will you open it first? You know, and frankly, if you're the kind of person who gets a reputation for writing this kind of email, the answer to that question probably will be no. That I might not open your important email first because frankly it's hard to read. This is much easier. And the answer to the question of what sort of impression are you going to have of me when I send you an email message like this is certainly going to be much more positive than the previous one. So this is not, you know, when you're sending email, particularly when you're sending email to customers, these sorts of things make a difference. This is not chatting. This is your state email, and you need to be watching out for your grammar and your spelling. I'm not going to leave you hanging on that, though. There are ways that you can set up an Outlook to actually automatically check your spelling and grammar as you go along. And I'm going to actually go into show you some screens from Outlook and take you step by step on how to set these things up. And these instructions are all in your handout, so you don't have to be hurrying to write all this down. The first thing you're going to want to do when you're in Outlook is you're going to want to click on the File ribbon or tab at the top, and that's up here. Okay, once you open that up, you're going to click down on Options. That will open this screen where you will want to click on Mail. Okay, once you're in Mail, you've got this screen showing, and you're going to want to go right here in the middle with the ABC check mark. Now, you can stop here and just click on Always Check Spelling Before Sending. I'd actually recommend that because at the very least, you would at least get a spell check. You wouldn't have to run it yourself. If you uncheck that, then you would have to manually want to spell check your things or not spell check at all. Again, not such a good idea for business writing. The second check mark there I do because what that's talking about is actually correcting an email that has come to you. So when you reply to an email, you're correcting somebody else's spelling or grammar, and I don't really recommend that because I don't want to be correcting my boss's spelling. But also that changes the record, and you have to realize that your email is a government record, and so I would also recommend checking the second one there. Then you go on here to the spelling and autocorrect selections. When you click that, you'll get this page come up. I like this because it takes care of a lot of the little problems that come up in spell check. The first ones are these. Ignore uppercase means that it will ignore things that come up so much in state government, like Department of Revenue is DOR. Well, DOR in some spell checks will stop it, and you'll have to spell check it even though that means something to you. Well, if it's in uppercase, if it's DOR or it's KDLA or it's DOW, those are not going to be stopped if you've got this checked. It's also going to ignore words that have numbers in them and ignore internet and file addresses. It flags repeated words, which is, I like that because sometimes I put the as my special word that I put in twice sometimes, and I never catch it unless it's flagged by Outlook for me. And then when you come down here, you can have your spelling checked as you type and do contextual spelling. You can also check your grammar along with your spelling. So that's where you can get that taken care of. And we're going to go one more level in here into autocorrect. And again, I've got all the instructions for this in your handout, so no need to worry about going so deep. But here we've got some corrections that you can make. This will correct when you capitalize the two first letters in a word and you didn't mean to do that, or it'll capitalize the first letter in a sentence. And I've had some people say they actually find that aggravating, so they uncheck this and they worry about the capitalization of the first letter in a sentence themselves and take care of that with proofreading. And then it'll autocorrect if you accidentally leave your cap lock on, and it'll alert you to that if your cap lock is on. So those are things that you can do to automatically have Outlook help you with your spelling and your grammar. And here are those instructions that are in your handout. You simply go to the File tab and then select Options and then Mail. At the very least, I would say always check spelling before sending. Then when you click on Spelling and Autocorrect button, this is where you can ignore certain types of words and set to check grammar. And then click on the autocorrect options and choose those capitalization options. So those are ways that Outlook can help you with this particular issue. Okay, and here's the type of thing that you get when you've got all of these things on. You can see all the underlines there, and this is very simple. It comes up, you simply right-click on it, and then it will give you what is possibly the word you're going to be using, and then you simply click on that word and it will change it in your text. So that's how the autocorrecting works. Okay, moving on to more ways to help your email be understood. One thing is to make one point per email. Again, email's not meant to be all the information you need to pass on to somebody in the entire day, just everything in one email. If you have a new topic, you need to start a new thread. Here's an example of an email that starts out very well. I mean, it's got a good subject line, revisions of the sales report. Monica is telling Jackie in that first paragraph there about things she wants done in the sales report. But then down in the second paragraph, she starts to talk about a meeting. The meeting has nothing to do with the sales report. It's a totally separate thing. And Monica has just sort of thrown it in here for Jackie to see. Now the problem with this will be Jackie's going to open this, she's going to read it, and then she's going to either file it away or just keep it in her inbox. And when she wants to refer back to it thinking, where is that email about the meeting, she's going to have a hard time finding it because it's not under the right subject. All Monica really had to do was to shoot off a couple of emails to Jackie, and then Jackie would have these, and she could file them to the appropriate places, or she could tell just by the subject lines which ones really were about the subject that she was interested in. So don't be afraid to create more than one thread if you've got more than one topic. Okay. You can delete unneeded threads. This is one way to sort of be manage your email. And provide context when needed. When you're bringing somebody into a conversation or into a threaded email that you have, you may need to provide them with context about what's actually being said. And then this one I think is particularly important for state government is watch your jargon. All of us in our own agencies have our own jargon, whether you're in environmental protection or CHFS or us here in the library field. You've got your initialisms, you've got, form number this. Well, form number this might not mean anything to a customer. You may need to be using the title of the form. So just be careful of your jargon. And again, this is one that will depend a lot on whoever your audience is. Now, we want to make sure that our email is responded to appropriately. So what can we do about that? Well, the first thing is to actually ask for a response. Okay? If you want a response, ask for it. I had a boss, and this was about her most favorite thing to put in an email. She always put, please respond by close of business on whatever day that she wanted it done. Well, we knew that's what that meant. We knew when we had to do it, and she got her responses when she wanted them. And it didn't hurt that she was our boss. So uh, ask for a response if that's what you're wanting. Make it clear what you want or don't want. Put in there that this is just for your information, that I don't need a response. Make it clear. Don't worry about putting that. Put that at the end of your email to let people know what you want. And provide contact information. This is very important. Um, one of the things when I was doing reading for this was always provide contact information. And really, the easiest way to do this is to use your signatures. Here is an example of an email from Peter to Lynn. Now, Peter happens to be a salesperson. Lynn gets a lot of proposals per week. She doesn't know who Peter is. She can't tell from his email who this is. Now she can tell who Peter is. Now she has his contact information, his phone numbers. He tells her what he wants. He says, please call me by Thursday so we can discuss. This is when the discount offer expires. So that's going to make her want to call. And he tells her that the quickest way to contact him is by cell phone, and he provides that in his automatic signature. So the signature line can be a very good way to make sure you get that appropriate response and when you want it. So let's go into Outlook and just set up our automatic signatures. Again, we're going to go back to that File tab or ribbon up here at the top on File, and then down to Options. And again, once we're into the Outlook options, we're going to click on Mail. And just below where we did the grammar and spelling, we will go ahead and do our signatures. And when I open this up, I actually have some signatures set up. But when you go in, you're going to want to click on New. And the Edit Signature box will open up, and you will be able to edit your signature and put in whatever information you want. Once you do that, you're going to want to click on Save to make sure your information is in there. And then this is the way that you set the signature to come up automatically on all of your emails. So in this case, I actually have 3 different signatures, but I'm saying that if I have new messages, I want my complete signature, which is the one you see below, to be on my new messages. And then I simply click on OK down at the bottom, and everything is set up. Now you can see this is my email. This is what comes up when I first open a new email. So I don't have to type that signature in. It's there. Now something else that I do is I actually set up emails for different customer groups, because I do a lot of interaction both with state employees and with public libraries. And I have a different signature for state employees and a different signature for public libraries. The one you're seeing here is actually my one for public libraries. So if I want to use that one, I can come up here, and when I'm doing my email, I can come up to the Insert tab, and then over here where it says Signature, I'm going to actually choose the signature that I'm interested in. In this case, I'm going to show you my state employee signature, and it will automatically go on here. I'll have to delete my complete one because it would have been in there. But this is an easy way to get that signature right into your thing and not have to type it. Obviously, I don't want to have to type this every time I go in and correspond with a state employee. So again, you go to that File and ribbon tab in Outlook, select Options, and then Mail. Click on the Signatures button, and if you're going to click a new, start a new one, you're going to click on the New button and create your new signature. Save it, and then remember to set your defaults if you want it to be the one that comes up all the time. And just a tip that you can set up alternate signatures for different correspondence or for different uses. So let's end this part by just talking about some email pitfalls. And these come up quite a lot in the literature about email, and I think they're just good things to be aware of. The first thing is don't assume confidentiality. I know we think that We put it in an email. Say you're putting something in an email to a friend, and you're, a little bit aggravated with the boss, and you put it in an email and you don't think the boss will ever see it, but it's really just one click away from the boss or somebody that likes the boss better than you to see this email. So you really can't assume confidentiality. The other thing is these are state government records. These are public records. So there's also the confidentiality issue there. So you cannot assume confidentiality when you send out an email, or you shouldn't assume confidentiality. Don't send an email when you're mad or upset. This one seems kind of obvious. The example I read about here was a supervisor who was having a really bad day, had one last email that came in from an assistant, and it just was the straw that broke the camel's back. The supervisor sent out a quick email that was just full of her aggravation of the day, and she knew she shouldn't have done it. And the next day she came in, she immediately went to the assistant and apologized. But of course, the assistant had already been to Human Resources. So just be careful about doing things when you're mad and upset. Step back, walk away. It's just very easy to pound at those keys and just let all your aggravation out. If you want to do that, that's fine, but don't hit the send button. Take a breath and walk away. Don't use email to avoid face-to-face or phone contact. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Sometimes those difficult conversations that you have with people are meant to be done face-to-face. So don't avoid face-to-face by using email. Don't use all caps or all lowercase. All caps, of course, makes everybody think that you're shouting. All lowercase just is poor grammar. Don't overuse formatting. I actually used to teach an email class probably 10 to 15 years ago. And I used to say, oh, use formatting. It helps you to make your point, change the colors, use the bullets, all of this. And now they're saying don't use formatting because so many people are reading your emails on their tablets, on their phones, and sometimes those things don't translate well into those devices. So they're saying now don't overuse formatting. Don't overuse CC and BCC. Okay, you're just filling up somebody else's inbox. And don't misuse reply to all. This is one of my pet peeves, is that, you get something, say, from Human Resources, and they're asking everybody in the building for a certain piece of information, and when that one or two other people reply, they reply to everybody and give everybody the information that really only the Human Resources person wanted. So be careful about replying to all. And don't overuse humor in your messages. I think we've all experienced this when, that one person in your department just thinks that they're hilarious, and they're not, or they're not to you. And so humor just has a hard time coming across and may not be appropriate in the workplace. And don't forward jokes and chain letters. Again, you're using state government email here, and these things are not meant to be used in that context. So I'm going to take a breath here. Do we have any questions about writing email messages? I hope you pick up just a couple things as you go along here. That's really my goal for this training, is that maybe some of these tips and a couple of these ways to use Outlook will help you. Okay. Doesn't look like we've got any questions, so we're going to move on to our next part, which is ways to better manage your email in Outlook. And again, I'm using Outlook 2010. Most of what I'm going to be talking about is also available in any version of Outlook. I've got a question first for everybody, and I want you to answer by raising your hand. You can see the little man with his hand raised up in the middle, the top middle bar up there at the top. Do you think, in terms of email, that you suffer from what I call information overload? Does anybody suffer from information overload? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're getting a few people. Yeah, I do. I do too. I think it looks like everybody suffers from information overload. Um, um, oops, sorry. We get too many email messages. I mean, we've got email coming at us from all sides, and that's part of information overload. Another part of information overload is this thought that we have to constantly be monitoring our email. Uh, Everybody wants it to be instantaneous kinds of conversation, uh, communication, and there's a constant need to monitor. And there's a pressure to reply immediately. Do you really have to reply immediately? Obviously, if something's coming from your boss and they want to know, ASAP, yes, maybe you do, but there are probably times when you don't have to respond to it immediately, but you always feel this pressure to do that. It's just sort of the nature of email. Um, we do a lot of reading and rereading. This is a big time waster, quite frankly. And if we could do some things to take care of that, we would probably be more efficient in how we use email. Overloaded inboxes and sent mails. I'm raising my hand right here. I've got the biggest inbox. I try to go through them a couple times a week, but I still can't seem to get my inbox and my sent folders down to a manageable amount. I try, but I'm not so good. Are you somebody who's CC'd constantly? Again, this is something that will fill up your inbox pretty quickly. Are you on lots of mailing lists? I know I am, and that really gets to me. Um, do you still get a lot of junk mail? COT has filters on most of our computers now, but the junk mail still gets through. And there are things that you can do about junk mail. So let's talk about information overload and what we can do about it. The first thing is to send less email. I'm going to call Nancy on the phone when I want to go to lunch. I'm not going to put it in an email because that's just one more thing in her inbox and one more thing in my sent file that somewhere along the way I'm going to have to delete. So why not just call her on the phone and send less email? When I was reading up on this, it actually said that I believe for every email that's written, 9 other emails are created. So you may not do 9 back and forth, but somebody's going to send that on to somebody else, and it's going to create more emails. So sending less email helps with information overload. You can actually set times for when you're going to read your incoming mail. If you feel that pressure to monitor all the time, why don't you say, okay, at the top of the hour, I'm going to read my emails, and take that pressure off yourself. Take action when you read the email the first time. Okay, this is the reading and rereading. If you can take action, whether it's to actually do something or to file that away, do that when you first read the email. Delete aggressively. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about deleting later, but if you open something and it's just something, my lunch thing to Nancy, that's when I can just delete that. I don't have to keep that in my email and then read it 2 days from now and say, oh yeah, I got to delete that. Just go ahead and delete that. Get off mailing lists. And this is actually not that hard to do. Let me show you an example. I was on this particular mailing list, and it was called the CWLA Networker. I used to get about 2 emails a month from them. I never opened them. I just deleted them because it wasn't anything that I even knew what it was. Well, when I did open one, come to find out it had something to do with children and families. Now, I probably got on this email list because I was doing some work for a state employee in CHFS, and I probably asked for something from them, and I just got on their email list. Well, the easiest way to get off of this was to go down to the bottom of this thing and actually click on unsubscribe, and I got off of this mailing list. Now, I'll tell you, because a lot of people always say this in this training, if you're trying to unsubscribe from something like Target or AAA or some other commercial uh, mailing list, this may not work. They actually are not so good sometimes about uh, complying with your request to be unsubscribed. But I do find that mailing lists such as this one, which is an organization or government mailing lists, the unsubscribe does work fairly well, and it's pretty easy to just get yourself off the mailing list. And actually, after I did this, I didn't get any more from this particular newsletter anymore. So it worked for me. Okay, let's do some more things with overload. We're going to talk about deleting messages and filing messages away and using the junk mail filter, and I'm going to show you some things you can deal with searching. So let's talk about deleting messages. And all of these have an asterisk by them. The reason is because your email is considered a government document. And so there are some regulations that go along with that. And I'm going to show you those regulations at the end. But there are some emails you could delete before you open them. Okay, that CWLA networker that I was getting, before I unsubscribed from it, I just would delete that before I even opened it. That's okay. You don't have to open everything that comes into your email if you know it's something that doesn't really pertain to you. Take action and then delete it. Okay, so if there's something you can do and you don't need to keep it, go ahead and delete it. This one's a big saver. Delete the beginnings of threads. Okay, if you have a threaded conversation with somebody and you want to save that threaded conversation, you don't have to save all the individual messages. You can simply save the last thread, and then you would have the documentation of that particular conversation. And then you can use the junk mail filter and then delete things, and I'm going to show you how that works. But first I want to take you to the regulation. This is a state agency retention schedule, and this talks up at the top about official correspondence, and you may be able to see there it says that this is retained permanently. Well, I don't think this is going to pertain to very many of us in this training, because if you read that carefully, it says it pertains to agency directors and above, and or the general counsel of an agency. So for my part, as a reference librarian, my email is going to fall more into what's called routine correspondence, which is this. And you can see here the routine correspondence that I do says to retain no longer than 2 years. Now, if you went into my files that I've filed email away, I've got some that's longer than 2 years. But this is telling me by the regulation that I don't necessarily need to keep it. Now, I would say this, but depends also on your agency. If you're doing something where maybe you're the only person who documents a certain top thing, then you need to be checking with your agency to see if they want you keeping your email longer than 2 years. But again, you don't have to keep it more than 2 years. Okay. Let's talk about filing messages. And in this one of the authors I read about talked about thinking of your inbox as a mailbox. Now, when you get mail in your mailbox, do you leave it there? You don't. You sort it, okay? You sort it, and you may sort it into something like this. Okay, here's the thing that needs immediate action. This is the bill I have to pay in the next 2 days. Then you've got things that maybe need future action. Okay, this is the bill I don't have to pay for 2 weeks. Okay, that's your future action. Then you've got something maybe that you're going to keep for future reference. So, you get those insurance papers and you want to file them away somewhere so that you'll have them when you need them. And then there's the junk mail that you can just discard and delete and throw away and that sort of thing. So if you think about your inbox like a mailbox, you're going to be doing something with it and not leaving your email in there. So the way this person in the book that I read suggested that you set up your files is to set up your files by action. So under your inbox, you would have a box that says action. So those would be the immediate action. Then follow-up, which would be something that you would check periodically. A reading file for those things you want to reference away. And then they actually recommended an old email box, which is for those of us who just can't imagine emptying our inbox and our sent mail and destroying all that and getting rid of it. So just pick a day and put everything in the old email file. And this is what this would look like on your in your folders. You'd have inbox, then you'd have action, follow-up, reading, and old mail. So this is one technique that this particular person thought would be a way for you to keep your email under control in Outlook and in other email programs. Another way is to, again, using filing messages and using meaningful files and subfiles. Start with a broad topic, and then you go to subtopics. I use this quite a lot in my email. Here's an email file that I have on databases. I deal with a lot of different databases. I get emails from the different vendors, and I just simply file away what I get from the vendors in a subfile. So I've got a main file up there that actually doesn't have very much in it, because most of what I get comes directly from vendors for each of these databases. So I use a subfile for those. You can also do it by correspondent. You might have a folder just for your boss. Okay, you want to make sure that you save all of your boss's correspondence and file it away. You might also do it by relationship. You know, got my boss, got my peers. Maybe you're working on a project, and so you want to set up an email file for all the correspondence from the people in that project. So that's something that you can do when you're filing messages. Just some ideas to give you a way to set up some meaningful files. Now I'm going to show you how to use the junk mail filter to move messages out of your inbox automatically. So what we're going to do is, the first thing you're going to do is you get a piece of junk mail. Don't worry about opening it. You just want to move it out of your inbox and into the junk mail. So the way to do this, here's an email that I get quite often, actually once a day. I get something from Dell. It made it through the COT filters. I'm not quite sure how to do it. I can't find a way to unsubscribe from it, so I'm just simply going to set this up to go into my junk mail. Now I can right click on this and I'll get a menu that will help me with my junk mail, but I can also, once I've got it highlighted, come over here to junk up in the top and drop that down, and you'll get these selections. You're just going to want to click on block sender, and what will happen, at least the first couple of times that you do this, you're going to get a couple of these windows here. Don't worry about them. They're saying that the junk email filter is not available. I don't know why these come up. They do. I don't get them anymore, as I clicked on them and said, don't show me the message again. And I get another one like this. Okay. So sometimes those will come up. It's not really true. It's, for some reason, not telling you the true thing, because it does work. That email went away and went into my junk email filter. And so once a day I go in, and sure enough, that little Dell thing is over there in my junk mail file, getting filed away because I set it up that way. And I actually have done this one recently with several, and I'll have 2 or 3 pieces of junk mail a day that never make it to my inbox, just go to the junk mail filter. So all I have to do then is go there and delete them, and they go into my deleted items file. So again, this is how you're going to do that. You're going to highlight the email you want to move, open the junk menu, or right click and get the junk menu to come up, and then select block sender, click on OK, maybe twice, and then your deleted contents go into your junk folder, and you're going to want to click on that periodically just to empty it. We're going to talk here about searching in email, and this is again something I kind of came to late that I didn't really realize was there. But you can search in your email files. You can search your inbox, you can search your sent files, your sent items, you can search any of the files that you have created under your personal folders, and you can even search in attachments. This will search not only file names, but it will search content of files, and it will search attachments. So it's a very powerful search as far as I'm concerned. Okay, and up here in the little box up at the top that's always there, and I never noticed it before, is the little search box. So if I search here in this particular thing, I'm searching in my inbox, and I'm searching for the name Paige, spelled P-A-I-G-E, and you'll notice here I got some of these emails that were in fact from Paige, and it shows me that that's why those came up. But I've got those 4 at the top that don't seem to be from Paige. Well, what's actually happened here is it's gone into the email and it's found that this was actually from Paige, It just didn't have her name in the from box, but Paige, it picked up Paige in the text of the email. Another thing we can do, I have a file over here that's called media scheduling. I wanted to find something I had filed away in there. I knew that this had to do with a public library that I was dealing with. And I knew that somewhere in the email I had used the word bloody for the name of one of the books that they were wanting. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to search on bloody, and what comes up, there actually in the text of this email there's nothing that says bloody, but up here in this attachment that I did, there's the word Bloody Crimes for the name of the book that I had scheduled for this particular library. So again, it's very powerful. We'll search all the way down into the attachments if you want to do that. And here's just a couple of tips for managing email, and then we'll be finishing up for the day. I like to sort and resort to speed up my filing and my deleting and my finding or my searching in my email. Let me show you how you can do this. The default for how your email sorts is, of course, it sorts by the latest email first. Well, that's a sort, and it's selected as your default, but you have other ways that you can sort your email. You can come over here and say you want to sort by a certain person's name. All right, you've got a pretty full inbox. Obviously, I get things from lots of different people, but I want to find something that Anthony Gill sent me. So I can go over here and I can actually file by the name, and it will pull all of Anthony's things together, and then I can very easily look at those and find the one that I'm looking for. Okay? So I actually sort and resort, several times a day when I'm in my email. It's a real time saver for me. The other thing is here, if I had my files set up by correspondent, it would be very easy to just simply file these all away under Anthony's file that I have set up. You can also sort by subject. So if I wanted to bring all the threads of one discussion together, I could do that by sorting by subject, and it's an alphabetical sort by subject. So again, sorting and resorting can help you with filing, can help you if there are things you just want to delete. Just a real time saver when it comes to your email. File the last entry in a string. Again, this is what I was talking about with the threaded conversations. Just keep that last one that has the full conversation in it. And don't forget your sent items file. I think there are some people who, once you send things, you think it's gone forever. But if you ever open your sent items file, there they are, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So don't forget your sent items file. And remember that you have to empty your deleted items. So I've been telling you here to delete items. Well, they're not really deleted until you delete your deleted items file. Here's my deleted items file. I had a lot in it that particular day. So what I did was I went in and I highlighted all of them, and I simply went up to the X. You can also do this by right-clicking and hit the delete, and all of my deleted items were in fact deleted permanently. So that's something you need to follow up on when you're really clearing out your email. So any quick questions about better managing your email in Outlook? Okay. Well, it's like I said, I hope that what you've picked up here are maybe a few tips that you can take with you and just make you more effective in the way that you're handling email. I'm hoping that when we were discussing the strategies for writing effective email messages, that you remember the subject. Very important. Put that headline in there so somebody's going to open your email. Be concise. Okay, make your point. Don't forget your signature. If you want a response, you've got to tell somebody how they're going to respond to you and ask for a response. And then remember about grammar and spelling, particularly when you're doing things with customers and you're the face of your agency. You're going to want to be making the best impression and also be understood, because sometimes the problems with grammar and spelling can make your emails not be understood properly. And then when we were considering ways to better manage email in Outlook, remember about deleting. You can delete things. Filing is important. You can use that junk mail filter, and then the sorting and the searching are also ways to better help you sort of move around and manage that information overload that we all seem to suffer from. I'm leaving you here today with a few resources. Some of these I actually used in pulling this together. Others are just things that I think gave a good sort of overview of email. Some of these are online articles. Some of them are books. And if you're interested in any of the books, you can obtain them through the state library. Just ask us to get them for you through interlibrary loan, and we will borrow them from another library for you. Uh, we do want to put in a plug for more of our training. If you are somebody who has become a regular of our training experiences, you probably know about our training calendar. You can check that. We update that quarterly, and there are always new trainings available, but we ask that you probably should get into them fast because they do fill up. This one was full, so there were people who came in late and weren't able to get in. But you may not know about our archive training sessions, which you can also get to from this menu. This training, as well as many of our other trainings, are available in an archived fashion. Um, you would just simply listen to them and get the information. You just would lose out on the chat part, but it's the same information that you're going to get from something like today. And I will tell you, for purposes of today, you all are going to be getting a certificate to say that you have participated in this training. If you use the archive trainings, you will not get a certificate. And so you need to know that so that if you are going to claim it for training credit, you go to your supervisor ahead of time and make sure that they're going to be able to give you credit for using an archived training webinar. So don't forget those. And lastly, I always like to say, to remind people that the state library is here for you. State government workers are actually a primary customer group for the state library. We're your library, whether it's a reference question that you have, a book that you want us to track down, whatever it is for your work-related information needs, we're here for you. Like you, we work Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. The phone numbers there will always be answered during those time periods by a professional librarian, and let us help you with your reference and your research needs. It's what we do, and we certainly are here for you.